right. So thank you everybody for joining us today. As Mark said, my name is Molly Avers. I'm up in the northern part of Ohio. Does anybody have Sphero Indies? Okay, I'm not seeing any hand raising, so excellent. Okay, only the
We,
bolts.
we
Now,
we've had indies and the bolts. I don't have them in my room currently, but I have a little bit of
okay.
experience with them.
Okay, perfect. So I love the bolts. However, with younger ages, we've seen more interest in probably K through 2 coding, and the bolts are great, but when the kids just draw with them, I feel like they don't get as much as they could out of the coding. So we looked at other options, and that's where we found the indies. So most of our programs end up being a 3-part series. And so that's kind of what my presentation is today. And you should hopefully be able to see my PowerPoint. Oh, it switched screens on me.
Yep, we're seeing the full deck.
Again, technology, we love it.
There we go. Yes.
Okay, there we go. Perfect. So again, 3-part series. So we start off with the kids being unplugged. I know with the indies, they tend to be unplugged anyway because it's color coding with tiles, and I have some pictures and little videos I'll show you. But we do start off with a worksheet, and then we introduce the indies, and then at the end, they do actually get to be programmers where we use the iPads and they change what those commands are for the colors. So my unplugged worksheet is naturally, of course, they have to assemble a Clover. So we talk about basic coding and kind of what it means. Robots, super simple commands, move left, move right, up and down. I've seen different unplugged worksheets where they bring in point of view. Again, my group is usually a little bit younger, so they get kind of confused when we talk about point of view. So we view this more as like an aerial. It's just a square or a blob. A lot of times I'll have them get out an eraser because they have fun eraser shapes, or I'll bring like plastic dinosaurs we have. One of my coworkers also made a giant grid that they put on the floor, and they actually have the kids move through it. I'm not gonna lie, I knew I would end up probably losing that grid and or it would getting destroyed. So I just made a worksheet and we have the kids go through. So before I give them this worksheet, I become the robot. So we talk about what is coding, what does coding mean, what uses coding, and I say, okay, you guys are gonna program me. I am a robot. I have no brain. I'm going to do exactly what you tell me to do. So I stand up in the front of the room and I decide a task. So it might be pick up a water bottle or grab a book from a shelf. I just did that with a group. And I went ahead and I did exactly what the kids told me to do. So I ended up walking into the heater and it was totally okay. I did not like hurt myself by any means, and the kids all laughed and stuff. And so when they do that, we take a little bit of time to reflect. I was like, you told me to take 10 steps, but how many did I actually have to take? And they're like 5. I was like, okay, so now what am I going to do? So we kind of problem solve and introduce debugging a little early on. I don't call it that yet just because we want to identify the problems. So I become the robot, they code me, kind of sets them up for this worksheet because they know, okay, I need to move up, I need to move down, which way do I have to go? So I tend to put the kids in groups, usually 2 or 3, depending on class size. I do have 16 indies, so if it's a smaller group, I can do individuals. But again, I like that collaboration, that teamwork. The kids can really never have enough of that, especially nowadays. So I have 2 answer keys, depending on my age. Younger kids, I'll stick to the one on the left that has all of the arrows. The one on the right, we talk about how sometimes in code you can put a number to the command, and that way it's going to move one direction 3 times instead of putting 3 arrows. So I usually screen share, use the Apple TV, put this up on the smartboard or the smart TV, whichever the classroom has, and we talk about it. And it always happens that one of the kids is like, oh no, mine doesn't look like yours. And that's okay. So then we talk about the bonus part of coding where there's not always a right or wrong answer. And usually somebody brings up hackers and they're like, oh yeah, like would people steal your identity? And I go, exactly. So we connect it back to that real life on how, yes, we think we have it foolproof, but A lot of times there's more than one way to do it. So if another kid has a different code that they went ahead and drew their arrows on, I usually take a picture on the iPad quick, show it, and then screen share it and share everybody, and we kind of talk about it. If it's an older group of kids, I'll use the one on the right and how they can assign numbers, because according to kids, drawing arrows 3 times is doing too much. So that way they can go ahead and actually apply the numbers, and we talk about how that code or that command might repeat a couple times. So this usually takes about 20 minutes or so. My goal is about a 45-minute classroom. If I only have a half hour, I'll leave the worksheet out and I'll just have them code me, because then I do introduce the actual indies at the beginning. So that way they have exposure the first day. Second day I come in, we can kind of hit the ground running. So the indies, I have that picture up there. They're these cute little cars. Some of them say they remind them of Lightning McQueen. So there's the little car, and then different color tiles, and then challenge cards. All of that comes in the kit. Again, I'm not a Sphero spokesperson by any means, but all of them come in the kit. So that's what, when you get it, it all includes. I went ahead and now we talk about it. So we turn the indie on and we ask, like, what do you think it's going to do? So I say, well, when you think of a color and you start something, what color do you think of? And usually the kids know green, and so they all yell green. And so I go, exactly, green means go. So I put the indie, turn it on, and then I go ahead and I put it on a green tile. And it does do that little beep, and then it goes. And so after it's done going, I asked the kids, I was like, well, why did it not go? And some of them are like, oh, it didn't, there's no other color. It doesn't see a color. Exactly. And so then we talk about how our robot or our indie is very simple, and it only registers certain colors. So this color green for go is kind of a lime green. So I'll find something in the room that is a bit of a darker green, and I'll put the indie on there, and we'll see if it recognizes it. And it does it. And I go, so this is why we have to use our tiles. It's simple. It knows forward. What else does it know? Well, let's try. I usually do 2 tiles. I don't do purple first because purple's the fun one, but I did it for you guys so you could see it. And so I pull up the colors and I go, well, what's another color that usually means something? And the kids are like, red. Red means stop. So I'll pull out the red tile and the indie does stop. But for you guys, the purple one is the fun one. And so you see it flash. And the purple does a little celebration, crazy spin things. And the kids just go bonkers for that. They absolutely love it. So that's the start. I made this little chart, again, depending on age. Kindergartners, first graders, depending on where they're at, I might fill in a couple, because orange and teal is a diagonal turn. The kids struggle with that a little bit. But then they go ahead and explore. I don't want to talk to them the whole time. They get this kit with their partner, and I tell them they have to start figuring out what all of these colors do, because tomorrow we need those colors, or the next day I'm coming. We need to know what these colors do. So I give it to them and I let them know that they can either write the word or draw pictures. And again, I have a picture of this. I put it up on the TV or the smart TV or the smart board, whatever it is. And I'll actually write green is go. They know that one. And so I'll write go for them. And then if we did yellow or red, I'll say stop or slow. And that way they kind of have that up there and they know what is expected. They go through, explore the whole colors, and that's the end of the first day. And they're all super geeked, and it's kind of like I'm the shiny new toy, and then I leave and they're super pumped for me to come back the next day. I do bring a color chart filled in. That way, if any of them lost it and or their handwriting is terrible, they can't read, I give them a copy or I leave it with the teachers, and I'll let the teachers decide who they want to share it with, who they think might need it and would benefit the most from it. So that's day 1. Oop, I forgot it automatically starts. Day 2 is the challenge. So come back in day 2, we kind of refresh what we talked about. Green means go. You always have to have a green tile to start. If you don't have a green tile, what happens? Nothing. The indie just lights up of the color that it recognizes, and that's how we know it recognizes the color. So now I give them the challenge. Indie comes with these challenge cards. I laminated my copies. That way the kids can draw on them. So I bring in a bag of markers. I have each color in a little baggie, just Crayola markers, the washable ones. And so very similar to our unplugged activity that is grid formed, now they have to color in the question mark with what color they think the indie needs to see. So in my number 5, and they're already all numbered and everything, I didn't do this. You see the little red circle has a blue or a pink. So blue and pink turn left and turn right. And based on their chart, they know which one. They would have to put that tile there. They decide. If it's an older group, I will white out. So on the right-hand side of that circle, I whited out that blue or pink above that question mark so the kids don't see it. So that way they have to use their chart, and it kind of goes back to using what you did the previous lesson, and they have to put that color there. And again, it gives them that exploration, that trial or error. So as soon as the kids don't get it, and I'm watching them, I go, okay, so we have a problem. What do we call a problem in code? And that's where I bring up there's a bug. Now we need to go ahead and debug the situation. What are we going to do? I have them refer back to their chart again to make sure they're using their resources that they have, and then they complete the actual challenge. So I think there's 13 different challenges. The farther on you go, so like the second one, number 9, it doesn't have those little colors to give them hints. So I use these for my second and third graders. They have to try a little bit harder. And so the little cup is the celebration. So that's our purple one. And then those question marks, they need to figure out what they have to put. So I usually do 3 or 4 challenges. Gotta let them get a little bit of free time in there because they're going to do it anyway. So if you give them 5 minutes to kind of experiment and play before, then when you give them the challenge cards, then they'll actually do it. But they'll color on these first to kind of color in what color they think goes there. They'll run the program. When there's a problem, we look at their color sheet and say, okay, where is the bug? aka which color is the problem? Of course, I did a couple little videos of that. So I did number 9 was the one I laid out. So an arrow gave us the direction because every time there's always one student who just turns their robot around so it goes straight to the purple. And I'm like, no, that's not even difficult. But it never fails. So the first one, and one thing with our indie is it's very direction. So you see how this very first video on the left, when I click play, he's pretty crooked and it goes, and it totally misses the tile. So then we talk about why we need to make sure it's straight. Again, it's a simple robot, not like a car that has a steering wheel. We go to the second one. Notice 2 greens make it go faster. All of a sudden it stops. We talk about, again, why does it stop? Because it's only coded to run for 3 seconds. My tiles are too far away. Okay, I need to shorten them up. And then, of course, we get to the final one. And success, we finish off with our crazy spin. Kids get all excited. If I have a group that's really excelling, I will be the challenge and I will put the purple and the green spot tile down and say, these are glued to the floor, you cannot move them. So usually I like make it go around a desk or an obstacle or something so the kids have to work a little bit harder. So if I have a really advanced group, I tell them, you cannot move these. When you get this done, let me see, and then I'll move it again for them. Or I'll challenge the partners and say, okay, this time, Chris, you do it. Next time, Johnny, you put it down, and challenge your partner to see if they can go ahead and lay the tiles or the code to get it done. And then day 3, oh, that's right. There we go. Day 3, they get to become the programmers. So I bring back my color chart, and this time on the iPad, they change what the color does. So here you have me using the iPad. So what purple used to be celebration, now I'm going to make it be a slight right. So it's very simple block coding. Now I introduce block coding and kind of what that means. They can change the light, the sound, the direction, and of course the cute little trash can monster. So they go ahead and change this. Every time that blue line flashes across, it updates the indie. So they're Bluetooth connected, so you can update them. And then, so now I changed purple, what used to be celebration, now makes a slight right. So on their color sheet, they write what it means. Okay, they change it and they give it to another group. And so now that other group has to go ahead and do a challenge card with what that new code means. So some of them get it pretty quick. Some of them it's a little struggle because they're like, no, yellow should mean slow, not stop. And that's what we talk about. Well, remember, somebody else coded it this time. If somebody else codes, it could be a little different, but can you still do it? So we use this color chart now, but then the kids actually get to experiment, use the block coding. That way it kind of sets them up for when they're older. And if I come in with the Spheros and we actually do block coding, then they've already seen it, they've heard it. A lot of them have experience with Hours of Code and code.org and all of that stuff. So they've seen block coding, but now they can actually see it in person and not just on the screen. They see that robot doing what they want it to do. So that's the third time. And that one usually gets kind of chaotic and fun, and the kids are loving it and the teacher's loving it. And then I finish with a handout. So I did make a handout. I like to give them something to take so that way they can try to take it, make it home and show their parents or guardians what they've done. So simple definition of coding, and then just some simple coding vocab we've talked about through the time. We talk about the workspace, what it means for an algorithm, a loop. Again, depending on the age, I might show them a loop. I'll make a loop with the Indy and talk about how it's going to keep running for forever until the battery dies. We've talked about bug and debugging, a command and a programmer, and then just some different resources and places that they can go ahead and check out. And again, different types of code. And some of them, again, probably not, but some of them have written some of their own code with their games and stuff they play. So when I ask them, what type of code have you heard of? What type of code do we have? Some of them do say HTML and those, some of them bring up Alexas and they're like, well, we talked to her. And I go, exactly. You could use verbal code. You can talk, that's fine. So we just kind of talk about other coding, but that way they can take it home from everything that we've talked about for the 3 days that I came in. 45-minute sessions work the best. I did just finish up with a second grade classroom and we had 30 minutes. I made it 35 and we were able to get everything done and the teacher was totally okay with it. And then she goes, do you want to come back every day till the rest of the year? So the kids do really enjoy it. They get excited because they can physically see what's happening. And it's just a little bit easier than the bolts. Then hopefully I'll come in 4th and 5th grade, 6th grade with the bolts and be that shiny new toy again and have the kids explore more in-depth block coding. And that is what I have for my lesson.
Great. Molly, what app is the
Oh.
Sphero Indi Sphero EDU, or is it a different
It
app?
is a different app, and I totally forgot I was going to take a picture. So it's EDU Junior. So it's still the EDU brand, just Junior, and it's got the big Junior in the bottom, cute little purple app.
And the other question that I have, are you able to, in the chat, drop some of those worksheets? I think those are very handy. If not, we could send them out afterwards, but can drop them in for the current participants.
I told Mark earlier, I am working on typing up my official lesson plan. My lesson plans always end up here, and I'm terrible about putting like the whole thing down on paper. So I'm working on that, and I will finish that today so that way he can send that out. Yes, let me find them here.
So just as an update, I have gotten our first Lunch and Learn is now on YouTube. So we're going to start putting the rest of them on YouTube, making them available to watch afterwards or be able to watch them again. If you get a set of indies later on and want to go back to that, that's kind of the goal. And we're also going to be adding other states from 4-H so that we'll be able to add those as well to other states,
And
being able to see it later.
You can buy them in an 8-pack, and it comes in a cool little carrying case that has all 8 nice little case like this that locks. If you get the 8-pack, there's a yellow one and it charges all 8 indies at once, or you can charge each individual indie. So we got 2 8-packs just to make it a little bit easier for ourselves. All right, I'm saving them as PDFs now because I tried to save them on Teams, and then when I opened them up later on, they looked all funky. So I'm going to save as PDFs this time.
We have a question in the chat about how does the car know what color it's driving over?
So on the bottom, there is a little circle and it's lit up right now. And so when it sees a color, it knows it has to hit that circle. So sometimes the kids will drive over and it'll be like a little bit off. Each of the tiles has a white outline. So sometimes that circle will be just right. It only hits the white. And so we talk about, okay, when your Indy was on your tile, was it off a little bit? Was it tilted? What direction? And then when it sees a color, the front lights up of the color it sees. So that way, you know, too, like some of my teachers have giant rugs on their floor and with different color spots. And so the kids are like, oh no, it's not gonna work. And so we put it on the spot to make sure if the Indy recognizes the color, then it lights up on the top. Okay, let's see if I can drag some stuff in here now.
The other nice thing about unplugged activities is we have great technology and that's useful sometimes, but then sometimes things your unplugged is always kind of your backup plan because that maybe something doesn't go right or your iPads die and then what are you going to do? So having that unplugged is certainly a nice nice backup to be able to do. Okay, and we have our evaluation, and that is the link that I just put in the chat. So if you would take the time to.
And as soon as I figure out where my worksheet saved, I will drop that in there.
We got the color chart and the coding handout.
Sometimes too many screens is not a good thing. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Should be there. Excellent. And then when I finish up the lesson plans, I will send that off to Mark and then make sure he sends that to everybody too.
And Daniel, one of the things that we're going to try to do, and I see that you're from Florida, is we're going to try to work with your state liaison until we get the email lists created for each state, and they would hopefully forward it on. So you'll start getting those regularly.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Our volunteer state specialized agent, Candy Deerenfield, is the one that she forwarded this to us a couple minutes ago. And she's like, if you could make it, they're awesome. Try to. And when I did, I mean, I'm filling out the survey right now, and I am just so thoroughly impressed by this. Molly, you did awesome. And
thank you.
I really think I loved how you mentioned that whenever you first get in front of the kids, you say, all right, let's try to code me first. And I just think that's a really cool way to be goofy with them. So yeah, I'm all for that. And I'm excited to reach more information. Or rather, that makes no sense grammatically, to receive more information.
And some of our past lunch and learns were creativity. So we have some good ones around video, creating things with shapes and such. So once those get put onto YouTube, we'll be sending those out so that you'll have a good library and resource to refer back to. And the key is to just try one thing and then get good at that and then try something else. And the kids will help you along the way. If you don't know all the answers, that's okay. We're here to be the guide along the side and give them good resources. So thank you all for attending today. If